Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Jeff and Collin in the Morning. We are your hosts, Collin Peters.
And Jeff Manfred.
So, Jeff, you and I discussed the topic for today and this episode. It was a topic that we've been trying to get on Film Asylum to talk about as a movie in general, but since John wasn't with us for this one and we didn't know exactly what to talk about, we just decided we were going to cover the whole basis here, not get too in-depth with the films, but just the franchise in general.
Yeah, I'm excited for this because I could talk Ghostbusters all the time, and finally getting to actually sit down and talk about it now is kind of fun, because with the release of the new movie, you're starting to see almost a resurgence of, I guess, pop culture paraphernalia, the best way to explain it. Because, I mean, I'm guaranteed we'll probably talk a little bit of spoilers, like, randomly throughout the show, but the big thing you're going to see, like, now is they kind of popularized the new little Stay Puffs. And I thought that was actually really cool because they're pretty funny in the movie. And, I mean, like, they're straight up just killing each other is probably the best part of that.
That was one of the funniest things, and they're happy about it. Like, oh, hey, here's a blowtorch, and oh, melting.
I was thinking about trying to find the s'mores one, where they're literally baking a marshmallow man into a s'mores.
The blender scene. I mean, a lot of this stuff is like out in the trailer, so there's nothing new with that, really.
Yeah.
It's not really a spoiler.
I said we might let stuff slip just as a forewarning.
Yeah, they're probably. I mean, yeah, we're in December right now, so if anybody didn't see Ghostbusters Afterlife, we are gonna bring that up, which is the latest installment. If you haven't seen it yet, we do highly recommend it.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we're not going to get into it right away because we got to start somewhere, and it starts at the top. And we got to thank famous comedian, and famous actor, Dan Aykroyd for the birth of Ghostbusters, actually.
Yeah, his original concept was fucking out there. The whole, like, alien thing.
Yeah, but wait. You got to go back to the very, very beginning.
Which one's that one?
His family was actually big in the spiritual seances.
Oh,
I think he said it started with his great-grandfather, and I believe Aykroyd's from Canada, and they had a family farm, like most people did. I mean, especially if he's talking about his great-grandfather. Aykroyd's got to be, if not in his 70s, he's got to be pushing 70 by now. You know, it doesn't surprise me one bit that his family had a farm. I mean, that's just what people did back in his great-grandfather's era. But they said that he was, like, really big into the spiritual energy and wanting to know, like, not just that there's an afterlife, but what the spirit realm is like and connecting with them. And you know how they tell you all these stories about Ouija boards and who you connect with, who you don't. And apparently his great-grandfather had journals and lists of stuff, and part of the thing that they mentioned was ectoplasm and a lot of this other sort of shit that was all, like, not really documented at the time. And Dan Aykroyd had said that he contributes a lot of people knowing what ectoplasm and a lot of stuff from Ghostbusters is because of his great-grandfather's stuff that they incorporated into the movie. And now,
oh wow,
now because of Ghostbusters, you've got the movies like Ghost Hunters and other things that you see on TV, and I believe that because it's a skeptical topic. It seems like either you believe or you don't believe. I don't really know how to explain it. I know as me, I want to believe. I hear things, and you know, it's no secret that I believe in God. I've preached that on the show, no pun intended, but I see your face there. But
it was pretty bad. I'm sorry.
Hey, talking about the king of dad jokes.
I know, I'm the dad.
Yeah,
dad jokes.
There's a difference. You're an actual father. I'm a father of dad jokes.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm sorry. I forget what. Oh, I was talking about like my beliefs and where I want to believe. I seem to be like always searching for that stuff, and whenever I come across other people in those ghost hunter shows and things like that. I always keep looking for more proof, but a lot of times you got to remember that unless you actually physically do it yourself, I don't think you're really going to believe. I think you can take things that are true stories and interject them in with your own opinions and whatnot. But overall, I think a lot of that shit on TV is just horseshit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we all have had experiences. I can name 3 that I've had, but it was around certain aspects of my life. Like, shortly after I was in a motorcycle accident, I kept seeing a woman in Victoria dress. She was watching me. That was it. She wouldn't just, I'd be doing something, and she was, like, kind of watching over me. Let's make sure I was okay. And I'm like, this kind of weird, but, because I saw it originally out of the corner of my eye, and I didn't believe it. So then after 3 times of seeing the same thing, I'm like, all right, there's something watching me. I was like, cool, let it go. The second time, it was actually during a storm. And something kicked the door open, and you heard kids laughing. And this is my old apartment. It was fucking creepy to begin with.
Yeah, it is.
But I went out in the hallway, and I saw the shadow of a kid running past. And I went out towards the door where that got kicked in, and there was footprints leading out, but not in. So I'm like, the wind probably kicked the door open, but it was just kind of coincidental that those 2 things happened at once. Like, it was almost like a warning, like, hey, you might want to.
Yeah.
And then the third time was right before I had my surgery for my cancer.
Oh, okay.
But that was more of a malevolent spirit, because she was kind of feeding off of my fear.
You hear that, especially like in the Ed and Lorraine Warren stories where they talk about that's like part of the first steps of possession, is they try to weaken you and bring you down, and pretty much when you're suffering and you're at your lowest point, that's when they go in for the attack and just take you. 'Cause, I mean, it's no different than like if you're strong and you're healthy, you know, you can fight off a cold or something.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's no different than that sort of concept. So I find that very fascinating. Did you ever have the dreams where you like physically met people and it feels physical is what I really mean to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had at least 3 of those already.
It's kind of crazy because like I'm always thinking about like the afterlife, and I always think about the idea of what if we are. It's gonna sound weird. The reincarnation actually really exists, and what we have dreams of that feel like they're real are actually memories of another life, and it's starting to filter through. So like, my dad used to talk about having dreams about being in Egypt and seeing the pyramids, and he's like, I've never been there, and it's like I felt like I have been there. So it's like I took that, and then like kind of thinking about that, like certain things might actually add up over time, but it's like it's kind of crazy.
I can believe that. I don't think reincarnation is what people think about, like being in an animal or your spirit animal, or like when you die you become a polar bear or something. I kind of think of it as it's, you know, like our bodies still have a certain type of energy, and you can't really kill energy, you know. So where does it go, like when the body, you know, is done, you know? And that might be where the so-called spirits that hang around in limbo are, like they can't find somebody to attach to. It's kind of like you missed the boat sort of thing, and so they're just waiting around, or they just get attached to a place or an element, you know, or something, and they just get stuck there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot more levels to it that I don't really know about, but it might explain also things like demonology, like the Annabelle doll, when they say like they go into a vessel and they're just waiting to get somebody, something like that. You know, I'm always open-minded to that stuff, and it doesn't hit everybody, or the concept doesn't really sink into everybody, and I think that's why you get a bunch of skeptics and they go, oh, that's bullshit. I know generations of family and friends and none of that shit ever happened, so that's why it's just kind of like, ghosts, whatever. But I always feel like if you are a churchgoer or you have any sort of belief, it's hard not to, even if you're not a high holy roller. I mean, I definitely don't claim to be. I definitely accept God into my life, you know, and I try to, like, you know, go to church if I can, but it doesn't always seem to work out like that. But like I said, I do accept God into my life, and to have that sort of belief and to say that, oh, there's nothing that happens to you when you're dead, I'm like, I don't know. I think there's something that has to happen no matter what. I mean, maybe if you choose not to believe in it, hey, that's your call. I mean, I'm not gonna, say and do however anybody should go about their beliefs with that, but that's just how I view it.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool, and because of Ghostbusters, we got more of this and we got more questions, and I think we got to be more open-minded about this sort of stuff because there was a little bit more tangibility now that there are some definitions and there are some sort of like maybe proof is the word I'm looking for in a way, even though this was like a goofy over the top, I don't want to say campy, even though it did have some camp to it.
I mean, the first one I would say is like they tried to play it straight, because if you look at it, they went into it as a more scientific concept, where 2 kind of went into more of a comedic concept, where 2 separate elements are showing that they're scientists showing that they're trying to prove that ghosts are real. Where 2 was like, we already know that ghosts are real, now we can play up the comedic part, which they brought in more of a, I want to say, malignant spirit that wanted to take over a child. So it's kind of like 2 different elements within the same universe.
Yeah, we'll get to that then. But so to get things started, Aykroyd, this was like a thought that Aykroyd had built up for quite some time. I know he had said for a little while that when he did Blues Brothers, he didn't want to be like involved with licensing and be on a lunchbox and toys, and then he kind of regretted it then. And when Ghostbusters came around, they said, would you like to do it this time? And he was like, absolutely. I think he realized how much money he missed out.
But I mean, even on Blues Brothers, there was a lot of licensing stuff for that too.
Oh, I believe, I mean, whatever he missed out on now, I hope he's getting it then, because I also feel like Dan Aykroyd is one of those, he gets a lot of love, but because it was always, especially at that time frame, it felt like it was always going to be Bill Murray, John Belushi, and Chevy Chase were like the main Saturday Night Live guys.
Yeah.
And I don't think he ever seemed like that kind of guy who had to be a top spot kind of guy, because Aykroyd held his own no matter what. I mean, he can even perform serious acting if he wanted to. It's like how we had that one Jeff and Collin in the Morning episode where we talked about comedians. I think it was Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah.
Where he said he was impressive in Sweeney Todd, and I said, I think it's because he was trained in just theater and acting, and just comedy came natural to him, and that became his thing. So I think with a lot of these guys, it was started out as acting, and they just did improv and comedy, and it just started becoming their thing, and they were rolling with it. And obviously, Aykroyd has a talent for writing and creating as well. And you were saying that the original script was just out there.
Yeah. The only reason I found out about the original script was Movies That Made Us. They talked about it a little more. I did hear like random stories of what he actually was going through, but I'm like, is it true? But it wasn't until they interviewed him like, oh, it's true. Because like it was aliens, and then they were like all this crazy shit. I'm like, wow.
I think they said it was something ridiculous, maybe 300 pages or whatever originally, which is a lot for a script.
Dude, it's what, a minute a page, give or take?
Pretty much.
That'd be a really long movie.
I know. And the concept of Ghostbusters was originally that they were already established and it was futuristic. But I'm very glad that when things all came together and they got Harold Ramis and Ivan Reitman on board, that they said, okay, this is a really cool concept, but we got to break it down a little bit and make it more grounded. And how about we have it become a bunch of scientists that are trying to build a company from the ground up?
Which made more sense at that moment.
Absolutely. I think that was the absolute right way to go.
Plus, even that concept was ahead of its time, because trapping ghosts is a big thing. So it's like you found a spirit, now you want to trap it. So yeah, like they would have to kind of show the levels of what they were going through. And if I remember correctly, didn't they have to like bang out that script in like 2 or 3 months?
It was something ridiculously short because they got approved with all this money, but they had such a short amount of time to do it. And originally, like the main guys, the main core of guys were supposed to be Aykroyd, Eddie Murphy, and John Belushi, and for some reason Eddie Murphy wound up dropping out, and John Belushi unfortunately passed away. So
yeah, I admit that probably would have been fun to watch, but I don't think it would have had the same mesh that they had.
I agree. I just think this cast was like absolutely spot on. Even I think that like Ernie Hudson feels like the outcast just because he's not the comedian from Second City or any sort of comedy background. He just kind of like auditioned and came out of nowhere, and they said, "Here you go."
And he knocked it out of the park too.
Absolutely. I mean, there's like not one bad guy in that group.
No.
I mean, you love them all, and I think the most standout character of all of them is probably Harold Ramis as Egon.
Yeah, because of how straight he played him.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy because, like, him actually being that scientific and explaining everything, I was just like, that's fucking impressive.
Not only that, but he had that look to him that was just so unique. Like, the other guys could just kind of blend into a crowd more, but Egon was this tall, skinny guy with the big poofy hair and the glasses, and Harold Ramis I gotta say, that's probably Harold Ramis' best performance. He's not really known for being an actor.
Yeah.
But he's known more for directing and being behind the scenes and writing. Like, he directed Caddyshack and National Lampoon's Vacation. And then he was in Stripes, which was directed by Ivan Reitman. Was also with Bill Murray. Had another great cast to it.
And then Groundhog's Day.
Yep.
He played a doctor, but I think that's when
he directed that as well.
Okay. I think that's when him and Bill Murray kind of had that falling out too.
Yeah, that's exactly when they did it. They made a great movie out of it though.
Yeah.
That's a shame. That could have been a hell of a combination for
Years.
decades. Yeah. But back to Ghostbusters.
I mean, we could probably talk about Harold Ramis and Bill Murray for, an hour and a half.
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think Harold Ramis is another guy who gets a lot of love that he should, because he was always that guy more behind the scenes. And if you're gonna say anything about him in a performance, you're gonna say something about Egon from Ghostbusters.
Oh, absolutely.
Even in the cartoon, he was a standout character.
I mean, just the hair alone.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was like a rat tail mullet
with a swirl.
Yeah, and it was blonde, and a baby blue outfit.
They were really bright. I remember that. I think I only had the first season.
Funny thing is, that's actually how I got introduced to Ghostbusters, was the cartoon first.
Yeah, me too. And truthfully, that cartoon was really good. Like, I started rewatching it again not too long ago because I was like, all right, the whole nostalgia thing and kind of like building off of it. I'm like, is it still really just as good? I'm like, it is. And I'm like, as soon as I popped it in and saw the opening, I'm like, oh shit, I remember this.
I know, it does kind of get you like into the groove of the show, and you see them breaking out the proton packs when there's like an army of ghosts and Stay Puffs behind them.
I think the funniest one that always sticks out is the Halloween episode because it's the pumpkin head and
yeah. Was that Sam Hain?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But the funny thing is, the voice that does Bill Murray's character is also the guy that plays Garfield in the cartoon. It was just kind of funny years later that Bill Murray ends up playing Garfield
in the movie, yeah.
Kind of irony in that.
Yeah, all right. I remember thinking when I first saw the cartoon, I didn't even know there was a movie until later on. And I think it was my dad, or we just saw clips, because at the time before Netflix and all these other streaming services, it was either you went to a grocery store and had a video rental section, Blockbuster, or you just caught the movie on TV. Like after it was released in theaters for a year or two or something, it came out on TV. And I remember seeing the clips of here's a Ghostbusters movie, and that was always the thing. It was always the title of the series, the movie. And I didn't realize, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, first came the cartoon and then the movie, so it was always Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie.
Okay.
Now we just call it Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but if you look at the VHS, it says the movie. I thought the cartoon came first until, like I said, my dad or somebody told me, or I just saw it on TV. And I remember I got so much more fascinated by it because I was with my dad at one of his friends' houses, and they were talking about the Ghostbusters movies, and they said, "Did you know that Slimer was actually a guy in a rubber suit?" And I'm hearing this as a kid, going, "Wait, the spirit thing, it looks fake and whatnot. That was actually a suit." So here we go again with the movie magic. I'm like, how do they do this? I gotta see it. So I remember being like really fascinated after I heard that, and then I heard the guys talk about how it was. I remember watching some Saturday Night Live stuff and catching some of the old classic things and seeing Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd, and I remember seeing some movies from them at that time, but I didn't actually get involved with them. And they were talking about those old skits and how great they were in those. And the more I just heard about it, I said, I gotta see the movie. And I remember asking my dad, what came first, the cartoon or the movie? And he said, oh, the movie actually came first. So it was more of a treat for me to see the live action stuff after seeing the cartoon, because you can do anything in the cartoon. Like the proton streams, it was like, okay, that's animated. What,
Yeah.
lasers, ghost powers, all this other crazy stuff. It's a cartoon, you can do it. But then when you actually see them do it in a live performance, it just made it even better. Like when I first saw Harold Ramis, I said, oh, that's Egon for sure. I mean, Bill Murray and the Venkman in the cartoon look absolutely nothing alike.
Same with the Dan Aykroyd one too.
Oh yeah, the only way you can really tell it's Dan Aykroyd is like maybe the totally upbeat personality. Although I did hear Dan Aykroyd say, "Oh, you can tell I'm the fat one." I'm like, not if it makes you feel better describing yourself as that, but I didn't view it as that.
No, I think it's just like they made like very specific things about them, but it wasn't like it was kind of broad too. So it's like, all right, yeah, you can tell this is Venkman, you can tell this is Egon, but definitely.
Plus, it helps sell toys.
Oh yeah, dude.
I remember that was another big thing when that cartoon was out. The toys that they had for that. I didn't have one, but they were cool.
I did. I had a lot. That was like, I think you said you had a lot of Turtles action figures.
Yes.
I had a lot of Ghostbusters.
Oh really?
Yeah, I remember having Ecto 1. Like every Ghostbuster, but it was just like, because at the time you got a Ghostbuster and a ghost, so it was like, I remember that, I do remember having the Shell Razor, so it was like kind of having the Turtles and that. But I think out of the two, I think Ghostbusters is more my favorite compared to the Turtles, because it's like, it kind of, as I could tell, like each one had its perks.
Sure.
And I think the same way. Like, I remember watching the cartoon first. It wasn't until I got older that finding out about the movie, and it was kind of nice, like you said, because you already had an idea of what it was going to be about. But then watching it, totally fucking different.
Oh yeah, watching it live was just more of a treat. I felt like, because even the same with Turtles, because it was just more of a like, holy shit, this is real. It looked tangible, and it was before CGI, so it was like more believable. And that's where I feel like people, like generations now, they don't understand that concept of seeing a cartoon or something totally animated and then seeing it come to real life. I mean, their concept of that now is like seeing the original Lion King and then seeing that live action one, and I'm like,
air quotes.
Yeah, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm sorry, but it's not really live action. And they're like, oh man, it looks so real, and I'm like, CGI.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, stuff like that was just such a treat to see. And I remember seeing the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man for the first time. I was like, wow, this is really incredible. And I remember seeing the first Ghostbusters movie was a lot harder for me to get. And I don't know why. I think it was because I saw Ghostbusters 2 first.
Okay.
Because it was on TV.
Well, they played that a lot. So,
I know, it's like universally just played everywhere for some reason.
But maybe it's in the same concept of it was more of a funnier movie, more lighthearted, as I should say, than the original. Like I said, the original was played straight.
Yeah, and the original had this broken down, like, here's the story, here's building from the ground up, here are these guys, they become like exterminators of ghosts, basically. They save the day, everything's like, they become celebrities in their own right during the whole process. save people, save the city, save the world, whatever. And then 2 came around, and I felt I I can criticize 2 because I think everybody can criticize 2. Now, I will say right off the bat, I enjoy 2. I think it gets a lot more hate than it deserves, but it definitely deserves criticism that it gets. Because when you first start that movie off, they act like people like don't even know what the fuck happened in the first movie.
Yeah, it's like they became blind to everything that happened.
Yeah,
like,
I'm
4 years
thinking,
prior.
what the hell? Did they use one of those Men in Black neuralizers and just like, oh yeah, there's no such thing as ghosts?
Get out of here.
I mean, I could definitely see them taking the concept of the state screwing them over and saying, well, we gotta
discredit them almost.
Yeah, but to like say that nothing existed, it was all fake, it was all phony, and just have them like totally swept under the rug, I thought it was so lame.
Yeah, I mean Walter Peck in the first one kinda. You can see why a city official would do that, because that guy was straight crazy.
Yeah.
And all the shots that Bill Murray took were all warranted.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, this guy has no dick.
Another crazy thing is I didn't know that Bill Murray's lines like in that first movie were pretty much all ad-lib.
It makes me wonder if the script it just says Bill Murray being Bill Murray.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, there are things in 2 that work, but that shit just, it bothered me. Like, I felt like they could still have the business and say they're struggling, and Ray has the bookstore, and they're still working in between, but I just felt like because it was so obvious that shit existed.
Oh, yeah.
And then the mayor even just kind of was like discrediting him after he called on them to save his ass, and save the city in the first movie, and then he says at the very end, somebody get him, we need, the day to be saved and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, you guys are a pain in my ass. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, did everybody just have amnesia, That's what bothered me about 2. Overall, I do enjoy it. I mean, the feel of the first one isn't quite there, but I felt like they expanded the universe a little bit more, and that if there was a third one, it would be a little more like interesting. Like they would just keep expanding it, and I saw that in with the second one. And because you got things like possession, you got the slime involved, and how it could make things turn bad or make things feel good. It could be used as a weapon that they used. Egon created new equipment in the second one, so there was new shit in there that was really cool.
And then you got to see Tully. Wow, it's Tully. Wow, Rick Moranis' character. Why am I
saying? Yeah, Louis Tully.
Okay, I was thinking Addams Family all of a sudden.
Oh.
Same thing. But you get to see him actually do the one thing he wanted to do, was be a Ghostbuster, and I thought that was amazing.
It was a lot of fun, and he got all excited about it at the end.
And it was like a really cute moment, because he's wearing those earmuffs, and he's...
Happy New Year! Runner, gotta stay fit. Stay focused.
And the fact that Slimer's driving the bus, he's like, do you have a license? And then Slimer's like, get the fuck on the bus.
Yeah, you got to see Slimer more, like, just hanging with the guys. Yeah. I felt like... I think the cartoon had come out after the first movie, and that was a little more established, so when you saw Slimer in the ghost house, like, I remember, because like I said, I saw the second movie before I saw the first. I didn't realize that Slimer was the first ghost they busted. So when I first saw the first one, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I was like, this is interesting. Because I thought he was always just kind of like hanging around, but I mean, the first movie was just a stepping stone that they didn't think was ever going to be a franchise, probably. They didn't know if it was going to work, which is typical in Hollywood. You never know what's going to work, whatnot.
But you think about it, you've got 3 heavy hitters as the leads, and it just kind of blew up from there. And I could see why, but I could see also the same thing, like, we just thought it was one off, like Blues Brothers. That had a lot of big names in it, but it only did one, and it took, 20 years, 30 years before we got a sequel, and it was kind of subpar.
Yeah, something like that.
I remember it was Blues Brothers 2000.
Yeah, I just remember it. I just wasn't too crazy about that. Damn shame.
Yeah.
It's also just a damn shame that Belushi wasn't in it. And another funny thing, though, about Ghostbusters was that speaking of Slimer and Belushi, that was supposed to be the ghost of John Belushi.
I mean, the amount that he was eating.
Yeah.
I mean, all I can think of is Animal House when.
Yeah, well, that's exactly how they modeled it off of him. And I remember Aykroyd saying that Belushi was just like a glutton for life. He said it just like absorbed everything. I was like, I could see him being described as that.
Yeah.
So yeah, after we got the first one, it made an impact in pop culture. Of course, the Ray Parker Jr. song that became a big theme. And I mean, you can't think of Ghostbusters without not thinking of that song.
There's a lot of good music from that movie.
I like the sound. Even the score by, what's his name, Elmer Bernstein?
I think so.
That became a staple in it, and it carried on in the video game and then in Ghostbusters Afterlife.
I mean, they didn't release that score until, I think it was either the 30th anniversary or the 35th, because I actually ended up picking it up because it was green and kind of like slime looking.
Oh, that's cool.
And I think they just recently did the one for the second movie. It's that pink slime. So
I
didn't know
slime.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't think that they released it, and all of a sudden I saw it, I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did find an original pressing of the Ghostbusters soundtrack. But
That's
it was
really cool.
Yeah, I was like, it was cool, and but the outside was kind of a little beat, so I'm like, all right, I can see why.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, especially now with how they're like re-releasing anniversary stuff. That's really cool that they're doing that for other people. They probably are remastering it too, which sounds even better. Especially on vinyl yet. Whew.
That's so crazy to me that vinyl's like making a big explosion again.
Hey, you can't go wrong with the quality of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely hear it. The only inconvenience with vinyl is just that it's a sit down, be in your home kind of thing. It's not like you. But now with the digital age, even if the quality's not there, you can just put it on your phone, and then plug your phone in your car, and boom, it's playing in your car speakers now. So much easier than a CD.
Absolutely.
How did you feel about the state of the franchise after Ghostbusters 2?
Honestly, I felt like they could go anywhere. Because at that moment, I thought we were going to get a third. Because I was like, even with the time frame between the two movies, by the time we would have realized that there was going to be a third movie, we would probably have been in 6 or 8. So it would have fit the time frame, but they didn't go anywhere with it. And I was like, all right. And when we had like nothing for years, I was like, cool, I figured it was done. We kept hearing rumors about sequels, but at this point, they're getting old, and what are they actually going to do? So, and then we got wind of the game. And that was actually kind of a big jump for me, because I'm like, wait, they can do a game and then use the script for the third movie they originally wanted to, but add on to it too, because it's a game. It's got to be at least 8 hours.
That was wild. I remember when that game came out, it was for PlayStation 3. I think it was for everything, but I had a PlayStation 3 at the time, and I played it on that. I was addicted to that game.
Yeah.
What was so cool was, I remember as a kid, whenever you'd play Ghostbusters, I was always kind of like being myself anyway. I wasn't Venkman or Egon or Winston or Ray. It was always, I'm a Ghostbuster. And I feel like that was just natural for a lot of people, not everybody, to just be yourself. Because you could see yourself just putting on a suit, putting on a proton pack, and just saying you're a Ghostbuster. So when that game came out and they said, oh, hey, you're a new hiree, I was like, this is perfect, because now you're getting to play with these guys, and you had everybody do voices in there. All the original cast from Ernie Hudson, Murray, Ramis, Aykroyd, Annie Potts as Janine, she came back and did a voice.
Yeah.
Even the guy who played Walter Peck, he came back and did the voice again.
I love the fact that he plays a big part in that game, and he does.
does.
And it's like, as much of a dick he is in that movie, he's just as much as a dick like 20 years later,
if not worse. Brian Doyle Murray was the new mayor, which is Bill Murray's brother.
Which I always think is funny. I'm like, I always expect those two in the same movie some point.
Well, he was in Ghostbusters 2. He was the psychiatrist too when they get committed.
That's right. He's smoking a cigarette.
Yeah. His girlfriend bathtub tried to eat her baby. He goes, oh, your girlfriend's bathtub tried to eat her baby? And he was like, don't look at me. I think these guys are nuts.
With that game, I feel we got a taste of like you said, expanding the universe. So we actually got to see what Ecto 2 finally, which was a boat.
Yep.
It actually brought back a lot of elements from the original movie, and it showed that there was more going on in New York City than what we were really seeing. Like, yeah, the building was one thing, but there was more dealing with Gozer and the architect and everything when they decided to open up an exhibit about
Gozer.
Yeah, Gozer. It's like, what's his name? Ivo Shandor?
Yep.
So it was like cool seeing how big that really was, and it was cool fighting Stay Puft, and oh my gosh. But the one story I always laugh at, Bill Murray was telling, like, he never really was going to come back to the franchise.
I remember him saying that.
So when they did the game, he thought it was the end, and I was like, all right, I'm cool with that. And he was doing the voice acting in Chicago, and he's walking down the streets, whistling the song, and some old guy looks at him and goes, "Give it up,
get over it."
Yeah, I'm like,
I remember hearing that story.
And I laugh at that because I'm like, because they didn't even know what was going on at the time.
Yeah, he was. I think he just got done recording the voice for Venkman, and he said he was like really into it and he was enjoying it.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Bill Murray seems like such a hit or miss guy. Like, he can be really cool, but like such a pain in the ass it seems too.
And it seems like everyone always says he's just got a phone number, you call it, and that's it.
Yeah, he doesn't have an agent. It's kind of like either you know him and he's going to show up or he's not.
Yeah.
I'm like, is something mentally wrong with him? Or is that just who he is? And he's got millions of dollars in the bank and he just doesn't give zero fucks. You know?
I think he just doesn't give zero fucks.
Probably, yeah.
He does seem like a really cool guy, but
I think at times he can be. Other times, I mean, it just seems like there could be days where he's just a miserable prick. One guy I can say I met firsthand that is just absolutely fucking awesome is Ernie Hudson. That guy I can't say enough good things enough about him. Like, if anybody were to say to me, who was the best guy you ever met at a horror convention, he's probably number one. That's how awesome Ernie Hudson is.
I can believe it.
Oh, he was fucking phenomenal. I mean, just like how he was just like so open to talking, especially to me. It was kind of like a Nick Castle moment, like how Nick Castle was talking films and held the line for me. He kind of opened up about like his personal life a little bit and some stories because I asked him about Brandon Lee because they were together on The Crow, and he was opening up a little bit to me about that. And of course, I wasn't like demanding or anything. I was just like really appreciative to talk to him, and I think he could tell I was being sincere. And it was so funny because he actually was the one who said, "Here, let's get a picture."
Oh, that's awesome.
He was the one who said, "I'm going to make sure you get a picture," and all this really cool stuff. And then when we were getting ready to part, because I was like, "Well, I want to hold your line up," and he extended his hand out to me and shook it. I was like, "Holy fuck!" Usually it's us doing it to them, but he was like, "Hey," that's just like the gist of it, you know. I'll just say that. But yeah, I highly recommend everybody meet Ernie Hudson because holy fuck, man, he was awesome.
Yeah.
He was really fucking awesome. Dan Aykroyd's another guy that I think is really, really cool too. It's a damn shame that Harold Ramis isn't around. I feel like I could have asked him so many questions if I ever meet him and just talk, you know, like his brain and comedy and, and filmmaking. Oh my god, I would just go nuts talking movies with him. That'd be so fucking cool.
I think that would be really cool. I mean, honestly, I would have loved to sit down in a room with, I would say the five of them because Ivan Reitman was a big part of it. I would love to just sit with them and talk because there'd be like a million questions I wanted to ask, and I would love just to hear the stories.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's the one thing that I just found out what they did. I was hoping for was a documentary just about Ghostbusters. They don't really have one yet. They do have one out there that I think came out this year. It's called Cleaning Up the Town, but it's more about the practical effects.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, it's close, but it's not quite there
Not
yet.
exactly what we want.
And I was like, it would be one of those things, because I would, actually even Sigourney Weaver, would be a nice thing to sit with and just hear their stories, because, like, that's one thing I think all of us as fans would like to hear, is, like, everything that was going on behind the scenes, and then just seeing them kind of interact with each other again, just so, like, I feel like there's going to be a lot of inside jokes and backhanded comments, because that's just the way that people
absolutely. Absolutely. I think even though like Murray was like really fussy about picking and choosing what Ghostbusters script he wanted to be a part of, I think he still appreciates it though, because I remember there was an anniversary picture of the survivors, when Ramis passed away, and all of them were in Ghostbusters stuff. Except, I just remember Sigourney Weaver was in a Ghostbusters jumper. Ernie, Dan, and Bill were in them too, and I think there were pictures of Annie Potts then, but it was like those four were on the main cover, and it was some anniversary for it, and I just thought it was so cool seeing them all in that.
Yeah,
because it looked like Sigourney Weaver even has a damn good time doing it too. Like when they did the promotional stills for Ghostbusters 2, there's her in a dress, and sometimes she's holding a trap, and they're looking like they're protecting her or something. I was like, that's really cool. I think she's just as part of Ghostbusters as much as they are now, too, to tell you the truth.
I mean, the only thing I wish they would have actually explained, like, even in Afterlife, was what happened to Oscar.
Yeah, the kid?
Yeah.
That's maybe grown up, probably went to college.
That's the only beef I had. I was hoping it was Paul Rudd. I mean, it wouldn't fit the age gap, but
That's
I
true.
feel like it's Paul Rudd. So.
But going back to the game again, I thought it was actually pretty wild and entertaining, because you even got, like how they had the slime blowers in 2 that they used as weapons. You could put that a little bit on the proton pack, and they kind of expanded them. They gave them what they said, boson darts. So like the proton pack could shoot like a cannonball type blast. You could cross the streams in the game, and it would have a bad reaction.
Yeah, I love the fact that they're even like, don't do that. And
Yeah.
just like,
and they'd like, you get blown back, and they're like, oh man, that hurts. Throwing the traps out. That game was like everything a Ghostbusters fan wanted to be, and it had a damn good story.
Yeah.
When you find out that Shandor possessed the mayor at the end, and becomes this, like, they take him to other worlds, and then you hear about Aykroyd talking about these other worlds, and I guess the working title at least at the time, was Ghostbusters in Hell. Was supposed to be the third script.
Wow.
Yeah. Even I was like, I don't know.
But I mean, like, if you look at the game, it's like an interdimensional game, too. So it was kind of bringing up what Aykroyd originally was going with, too. So which is kind of cool.
With keeping it in the realm of what they were already establishing.
Yeah.
Like, one of my favorite levels was, there was the tunnels of slime, and there was black slime, and they said that that's probably like the most evil and toxic. Oh, the librarian from the first movie, she came back.
It actually explained her story, like what happened to her, why she's still there,
and why they busted her. That was the painting of Vigo was back in the hospital, and not the hospital, the firehouse.
I love the fact that you could talk to it.
And it was actually Max von Sydow.
Oh, really?
He came back and did the voice again.
That is awesome.
If you don't know who Max von Sydow is, he played Father Marin in The Exorcist.
I was thinking Vigo too.
And he does the voice of Vigo, the main bad guy, or main ghost, bad ghost in Ghostbusters. Well, he's the voice. I don't know who the actor is who did it. But yeah, that was really cool. And then you can explore the firehouse too. You can go upstairs and see where they sleep, and turn on the showers or like something stupid. You even see the sign for Ghostbusters 2 in the back room, like it's storage. They're doing the peace sign,
Oh my gosh.
The cemetery scene in that game was really cool, seeing the ghosts coming out and the cemetery tombstones popping up. They had so much in there that would have just been so wild. I think it would be really cool if they could make that more now than what they probably could in the early or mid 90s and do it. But still, it was such a cool story that sometimes I just go on YouTube and watch it.
I'm not gonna lie, I have 2 copies of that game. I have the original PS3 one, and then when they remastered it for the PS4, I bought that.
It's great, though. That game is great, man.
I play it at least once a year, just because I love playing it.
I remember it was so addicting. Like, I would take a break from it and be like, I gotta go back to it again.
But it's getting to the point, like, even if you go up to the next level, you already know what's going. You know what you're looking for. You're already, like, able to...
Yeah, some of those parts were hard because you could take, like, slime tethers or something and connect things, and it was really cool. I just thought, man, it was just really awesome seeing that universe expanded and getting more and how they fought ghosts and the things that they could do with more weaponry, and it was what you wanted as a Ghostbusters fan, and seeing more.
Absolutely.
And even at that time, we had comic books too.
I mean, there's a lot of crossovers lately too. Like there was one where it was Ghostbusters and Ninja Turtles. The Ghostbusters thought the Ninja Turtles were demons. I thought that was funny as hell, and they tried busting them, but then they realized that they weren't, and then there was actually a demon that they were fighting. And then they actually showed it from the Turtles' point of view that the demon was what did they call it? A Shoni? One of those demons from Japan. That's what they thought it was, and it actually was a ghost from the Ghostbusters universe. But it was really short lived, so I was like kind of bummed because it was only like 6 issues, if even that. But the comics themselves, like that's always expanding the universe. I'm probably doing another one now. Because I know they did a crossover for the 2016, and I think it's called like The Last Call or something like that, or along those lines, or Who Answered the Call.
Before we get into the 2016 one, I just want to bring up, because there's probably somebody out there who's going to say this, but I mean, there was a cartoon called, I think the Extreme Ghostbusters, where they had a bunch of new recruits.
We didn't have to bring it up.
Yeah, I just remember it didn't really last long. It wasn't all that interesting. I think Egon was basically retired, and the new recruits pretty much took over, and there really just wasn't anything interesting with it. Nothing lasted. I know they just expanded. They made it more equal opportunity. Like there was a girl, which I don't care if there's a girl Ghostbuster. It doesn't bother me. One thing I thought was interesting was there was a guy in a wheelchair.
I totally forgot about that.
But other than that, I don't remember it being stand out at all. And then, like you said, for years we were waiting for another Ghostbusters movie. We were hearing rumors. I guess they were coming up with certain ideas. I think Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd were coming up with scripts, and Bill Murray was just turning it down. Lo and behold, I wouldn't doubt probably working with Harold Ramis again was another riff in it as well. And then I think there were even some writers of The Office that wrote a Ghostbusters script, and I have to look this up again, but I'm pretty sure there was a movie that they wrote, and it had Michael Cera and Jack Black in. I think it was called Year One. And I can be wrong, but maybe Harold Ramis directed it, because I remember because the movie flopped. It was a big time bomb.
It was a trash movie, I'm sorry.
And I remember somebody had mentioned to Bill Murray, what about the writers of The Office? And they just came out with Year One, and he said, oh yeah, that did really well, didn't it? And I was like, oh, so he was really fussy about it. Then there were those rumors where he said that he wanted to be killed off in the first 15 minutes if they did another movie, and I was like, man, is he like that resentful of it, or like what's the deal with Bill Murray and this shit? It was like bizarre.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing fell through. I even remember Dan Aykroyd saying, "Oh, we got something and it's gonna be happening," and then you didn't hear anything again. And it was like, okay, years are going by, and it was like, well, I thought something was officially happening. Nothing. And they kept on talking about this idea of new recruits, and that seemed to be the way to go. Like even at the end of the concept, I think with their third movie, they wanted to either expand the franchise like they talked about in the first movie, or have new recruits work with them or take over, or they were going to be so old that they couldn't do it anymore and that they had to hire new guys and train them, and maybe they would like come back for like one last fight or whatever.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the last line in the game, they're like, oh, hey, we can't use you here in New York, but we can use you in the Chicago chapter. I'm like, that would have been the next step. You could have taken it to Chicago. You could have taken it to L.A. Mm-hmm. You could have done something with it.
Allentown, Pennsylvania. You can find some shit out there. Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, I know that they've said before that the New York City was as much of an important part of Ghostbusters as like the guys and everything else were. I mean, Afterlife proved differently than that, but we'll get to that. But yeah, nothing ever really like came to fruition with it. And then finally they said that they were going to do another Ghostbusters movie and it was going to be a reboot. And we were like, okay, well, I think it's a good time for it then. And they made the announcement it was going to be an all-female cast and they were sticking to the vein of like SNL comedians as it. And I thought it was a great cast lineup.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for me, everything about that reboot fell flat. It was too much of a live action cartoon. It was way too campy. They had the originals come back in cameos. I thought their cameos were awful.
Bill Murray got his death.
Yeah, he did get his death.
Dan Aykroyd was probably the funniest cameo besides Ernie Hudson at the end.
Yeah.
I just blocked him, Mike. But Dan Aykroyd screaming up, oh, it's like a class 5, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, really? That's your cameo?
Yeah, they said, oh, I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I don't know. I thought it was cool. They came up with, they expanded it, like I said. They came up with new weapons and stuff to fight, and they gave it like a grand big fight scene at the end, which I thought was cool. It was probably one of the only perks. I thought Chris Hemsworth was probably the funniest thing in that movie because everything was just stupid comedy. Like it felt forced. I feel like when I watched it, and if anybody would laugh at anything else, I was like, you really think that's funny?
Funny thing is, I remember skipping work to go watch it because I'm like, holy shit, a new Ghostbusters. And I have to admit, I did enjoy it the first time through, but after watching it a second and third time, yes, I watched it more than once. Because it's like, I think it was holding on to the concept that it's Ghostbusters. I have to love it. But it's like, over time, I started realizing it was the idea that I loved, not the movie. So, like, I thought it was cool seeing that they had the busted Harold Ramis in there. And honestly, Melissa McCarthy did an amazing job, too. But I felt like she might have been over the top. Kristen Wiig might have been over the top.
Yeah, I think a lot of that stuff was over the top. Like the ghost getting slime and Kristen Wiig at the very beginning, that was over the top. That shit about Melissa McCarthy with the one wonton, I was like, this is just stupid. It's not funny. I mean, Chris Hemsworth had like this out there like stupid comedy. I mean, it was stupid comedy, but
if you look at it, he was playing a stereotype of a secretary.
Yeah.
But it was the male version of that, and I thought it was funny. I thought that was actually probably the funniest thing about it because I'm like, I did not expect that, but I'm like, it made sense.
I mean, I don't know what more to say about it. I know it got political, which I was just rolling my eyes with. I was like, this is just they tried something different, and I felt like they didn't need to try anything different because nobody wanted to see that, and it was such a downgrade. When you had something that had substance, and the comedy was good and raw and just there and natural, you had this shit that felt forced and that tried to be funny. Like they were trying so hard to like here, like my jokes, laugh at it. It's Ghostbusters, you should like it. And then that's kind of like the backlash that like anybody involved with that movie gave other people, where they said, well, if you didn't like it, you're this and you're that. And it's like, no, your movie just sucks.
Yeah, there's a difference.
It was like, hey, make a better movie. I don't know what to say. Oh, and the villain, like the main bad guy.
That was actually the ghost.
Yeah,
was it Rowan?
But it was like an actual guy who wanted to be a ghost, and then he became the symbol.
Yeah, it was a little.
I was like, I don't know about this. It was just. I just couldn't get into it. Like, you had something that was good and raw and serious, and they made it into this live-action campy cartoon. I was like, no. Even the proton packs and the traps, I just thought, man, they just look so bad.
Oh, the round. Yeah.
I just thought that there's, like, such great symbolism in what we already have, where all they had to do was just say, we're expanding the franchise.
Yeah.
And say, here are new recruits, and that's your reboot. No, I don't feel like Ghostbusters wasn't a franchise that needed to have this complete overhaul. Or like you said, they could have taken it to Chicago, they could have taken it to Florida, or wherever, and
it probably would have been the same concept. If you would have thought about it, like, hey, we heard about this happening in New York, we're still having a lot of stuff here, I'm going to say LA, we could have done it like that.
Exactly. And they didn't. And it was like, that's the thing that got me. And I remember, I don't even think I was fully engaged with it because it was just that bad. I just said, no, peace out.
But the one cool thing we got from that movie was they brought back Ecto Cooler from High C when we were kids.
I honestly didn't drink that when I was a kid.
All I remember was the Slimer on the front and the juice box.
I remember seeing it, but yeah, I didn't ever like, oh yeah, I gotta have Ecto Cooler.
I was happy to have it again. Like, I bought a case of it. Was it worth it? No, I probably got diabetes from it.
Yeah, probably.
I know they were talking about doing it again for Afterlife. I'm like,
yeah.
It never happened.
Well, you had COVID. That kind of put a kink in things with that.
But, I mean, the one cool thing that did come out of that movie was Ecto 1. I did like the whole hearse look of it. I thought it was a cool concept, a hearse doing it instead of an ambulance. So
I was gonna say, was that a hearse or was it an ambulance originally?
It was an ambulance originally.
Okay.
I think that's what Dan Aykroyd was talking about when he was talking about all the problems with the car. And
that car did have a lot of problems.
I got it for a steal.
Yeah.
But it needs shocks and
brakes, headlights or whatever.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, like just seeing them revamp Ecto 1, I thought was probably the coolest thing on the entire movie. And that's actually the only thing I kept from that movie was the Lego version of it. But yeah, even Ernie Hudson's cameo was screaming.
He owns the funeral home. And here it bombed and people were upset. I mean, some people liked it, and hey, if you like it, great. I'm not going to fault you for it. I just thought it was bad, and I didn't see the need for a complete overhaul of a reboot with it. And then there was also some talk about how I guess Ivan Reitman was going to get involved with some other Ghostbusters movie, and it was going to have Channing Tatum and Chris Pratt in it. You remember those rumors?
Yeah.
And they were going to... And then Ivan Reitman had even said, I don't even know where that came from.
Hey, at the time, I guess Ghostbusters was like, all right, let's do this, and then...
Yeah, try to... Like, we had an all-female cast, let's bring back the males and give it more like eye candy for women, I guess, because it was Chris Pratt and Channing Tatum, and they can do comedy as well as be heroic. So, but it just felt like internet rumor to me anyway.
Yeah.
Because even I said, I don't know if this is real or not.
I think, wasn't around the time that Jurassic World came out too? Or was that
probably
after?
I know Chris Pratt was getting really popular from Guardians, so it wouldn't have surprised me one bit. So time went on and looked like Ghostbusters was in limbo, and out of nowhere, Jason Reitman, Ivan Reitman's son, who actually has a cameo in Ghostbusters 2.
Oh, he does?
He's the little kid who says, my dad says you guys are full of crap at the birthday party.
Oh my god, really? That's amazing.
Him.
That is amazing.
So isn't that even funnier? He goes, my dad says you guys are full of crap, and here his dad's the director.
Oh. See, that's why we need a documentary second.
Yeah, no. But for anybody who doesn't know about Ghostbusters Afterlife or didn't see it, Jason Reitman is the son of Ivan Reitman, and he came up with this idea that it was going to be back into the vein of the Ghostbusters. And I'm just going to say right off the bat, Afterlife was fucking phenomenal.
I mean, if you haven't seen it, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, I remember watching it. I'm not gonna lie, I cried.
Dude, if you didn't cry...
You're a fucking monster.
Especially at the end of that. Holy fuck, dude.
I also like the fact that they asked permission to do it. They had to ask his daughter. And I was like, dude, that's amazing.
So to catch everybody up to speed...
No, fuck it. They can watch it. If they didn't watch it, fuck them. We can sit here and talk about it, but not actually say it.
But Afterlife is based around Hal Ramis' Egon character.
Yeah.
And it's family oriented. It's very nostalgic to the first movie. There are tidbits of the second one. It stays in the vein of the franchise. But you get everything you want back in it. You get the original equipment. You get Ecto 1. You get the suits. And you know right off the bat, though, that... And I actually enjoyed this a lot, was that... And it can work in Ghostbusters because it's Ghostbusters. But Harold Ramis's Egon dies.
Yeah.
And he dies at the very beginning. and they keep his face covered. You don't see who the actual actor is portraying him, but you know it's him. You see the hair, you can kind of see the glasses. It was fantastic. And what happens is when he dies, he's on this dirt farm, and his daughter, who was abandoned by him, and looks like her husband's not in the picture for whatever fucking reason. We don't even hear much about him, other than that I guess he just couldn't stand being a dad, I guess, and just bailed. Egon has 2 grandkids out of it. One's, what's his name? Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things?
Yeah, the kid from Stranger Things.
And McKenna Grace, who is pretty much, if you can't tell is Egon's grandkid, then you're not a Ghostbusters fan.
I would say she has played the younger version of so many people, like Captain Marvel, Sabrina from Chilling Adventures.
That's her?
Yeah.
I thought that was the girl from Mad Men.
No, the little girl when she's young, not older version.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, you're thinking like.
Yeah.
I know she played the younger version in was it The Haunting at Hill House? What's her name? Main actress, dark hair. Always wears the gloves. Anyway.
Yeah.
My brain's just.
Yeah, no worries.
But yeah, like I think she probably had the most standout performance because like I wasn't expecting to fucking like the movie, let alone like get emotional with it. That was the thing that got me. I'm like, all right, I was going into fucking ready to hate it. I mean, fucking absolutely hate it.
You kept your expectations low, huh?
I mean, really low. Like I could try. But it had the same feel that Star Wars Force Awakens had, but I felt like it had more originality than nostalgia in it, where Star Wars based everything on nostalgia.
I kind of see what you're getting at. I felt like there was a lot of nostalgia in it, though. Not to the point where it was a reboot.
Yeah.
You know, like how Force Awakens was basically like a remake reboot kind of thing. But Force Awakens kind of goes back to that, like, how we said, you don't need to reboot Star Wars. You can just do it this route and then have those similarities in there, and you go, oh, okay, and it, the love and feel of the original comes out, and you got these whole new characters, and it can expand the universe again that way. And Ghostbusters Afterlife was kind of like that as well, where it had the elements and the music, the equipment. I felt like they didn't really need Gozer and the Terror Dogs again.
I thought it was a nice touch, but that's where you could see where the game and that movie were essentially the same script. And it was kind of nice seeing that. I think that's why I enjoyed that, because knowing that the game was supposed to be the third script, and then you finally get a third movie, and it actually has some of the similarities. I'm like, all right. Because that was the one thing I did notice in the trailer. I actually freaked the fuck out when I saw that. I'm like, yo, the Temple of Gozer? And like, everyone's like, what do you mean? I go, I paused it and started screaming like, they are bringing that in. And like, I sound like a fucking crazy person.
I do like it because they, like I said, it might be a little too much nostalgia, but I'm not going to say it killed the movie at all, because, like I said, it does bring you back to that first movie. And I feel like Ghostbusters is a movie where you can expand, like I said, and bring in more and just like give us new information and some new routes and whatnot. But I think we were just so far past that, and anybody just really recognized the first one as being good, because Ghostbusters 2 gets a lot more hate than I think it deserves.
Oh, yeah.
So they feel like all we got really is one movie to go off of. So I think to bring in you get this nostalgia of the first movie, that's what kind of brings you back to the love of Ghostbusters again, which I think does help. Also, I felt like we got a better end to Gozer in that movie than what we got originally.
Well, if you think about it, I don't think they originally thought they got rid of Gozer. So it was more or less like, let's put a pin in this and save it for later. Because like I said, if they're going to go and expand the universe, Gozer was eventually going to come back. Because, like, yeah, they shut the door, but it doesn't mean the door's always going to stay shut.
No, absolutely not. Well, that was what Egon was saying, because he was on this dirt farm. It takes place in Oklahoma, not New York.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, they said that, like the original creators had said that New York was this big element. It was a character in itself. So for them to take it out of New York was a little, but I like it. I always like it when you get to go, outside of other places that are always New York, LA, Chicago, the typical places. It's always cool because we got a whole other world out here, people. It's not just
the big cities.
Exactly. And to have it like the Temple of Gozer and where the construction of all this like worshiping took place, it would take place in more of abandoned area and unknown, because a lot of seances and stuff aren't ever like right in your face all the time.
I was like, come on, Rosemary's Baby was in the middle of New York. You telling me that?
Yeah.
No one had noticed some weird shit happening?
Well, it is New York. I mean, people just like see weird shit and just go, oh, whatever, it's fucking New York. But I did like how they brought back Shandor. They actually gave him a look and a voice. They gave him a physical presence. That was really neat. Even though it was just really nothing to it.
Wow.
But
I feel like that movie could benefit from having a director's cut.
Yeah.
Because like they flowed really nicely, but I feel like there was some stuff missing that would have helped the story kind of been more understanding. So like, we don't know who Egon's wife was. We don't know who the kid's dad was. And like what I brought up earlier about Paul Rudd should have been Oscar, it probably would have been more beneficial if they would have brought Oscar in, because that's one big question for 30 years. What the fuck happened to that kid?
I haven't like ever really heard anybody like question it except for you, honestly.
I question it all the time because I looked.
We actually get some expanded universe on what happened to the guys.
Yeah.
And I felt like the expansion of the team was much better than what we got as to like a result of Ghostbusters 2. Like how everybody just forgot about what was going on.
Yeah.
I thought it was really neat how they said that Dan Aykroyd comes back in the fold, and McKenna Grace is on the phone talking to him like, what was my grandfather like, and what happened to you guys? Why'd you disband? And he explains that Egon just packed up all the shit and just left at one point, and business got slow. So Venkman went on to become a teacher and taught marketing,
yeah.
which was appropriate. Winston actually studied finance and became a multimillionaire. And Ray went back to the bookshop, and Egon just fucking bailed on him.
Yeah. I love the fact that they kept the occult shop open. That was the one thing I loved about that movie.
I just love how they tied in everything that you wanted and were familiar with that was Ghostbusters to keep everything intact and in vain.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really, really something when we got the three of them to come back at the end. Because, I mean, they made they didn't hide it. I mean, they did say that the guys were coming back. What got me worried was I had heard somebody say during a review that there was going to be 2 Easter eggs at the end credits. One was like halfway through and the other one was at the very end. And I'm like, oh man, don't tell me it's going to be, like, I'm expecting them to be in the suits, because I saw the pictures of the action figures of them as old shooting the proton streams, and I was like, oh, come on, they got to come back and help the kids out. And I thought, please don't let it be an Easter egg.
I would have been pissed.
I would have been so pissed if that was it. But no,
they would have wrecked the movie.
But no, they came back for at least a solid 15 minutes. It was just enough to make you go, you know what? If that's the last thing we see of the remaining guys again, it was awesome.
Yeah. Because
it was just them in the suits with the equipment, busting Gozer one last time. And they had the jokes. They had,
God.
They even had the "Are you a god?" And they're like, "Ray, come on, man," because he hesitates, and it's like, wait a minute, you don't remember what happened last time?
Yeah, it was nice just seeing even Bill Murray being Bill Murray I should say Venkman at this point, just doing his thing, and yeah, dude, that fits. And even with. Like I said, bring a lot of new stuff to the table. It's kind of nice seeing it. It is for the next generation now. It's been 37 years? Is that where we're at now? Shit, man, we're fucking old. And it's so that's gonna reach a milestone again in 3 years. So it's nice seeing that they are gonna continue it, hopefully, for the next generation. My daughter's watched both those movies with me, and she doesn't really care for the first one. It's the second one I got.
Ah, that's interesting.
Cause like she's watching it, she doesn't care. And the second one, you get a little, like I said, more of the jokes, and like she was more of paying attention. She was asking questions, like what's that? And I was like, you didn't care about this 1,000,000-foot tall fucking marshmallow man? You're asking about that? All right. So it's nice seeing that, like, yeah, they're thinking ahead. They're not gonna be like, all right, so this is it.
Mm.
So like with the Easter eggs, it did open up the door, but it's still kind of like, if this is it, this is it. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'm happy with it. I agree with you that they did open up a door to really expand the universe and do, like I was saying, a reboot, right? Like how they should have done it before, where they just hire new recruits. Like I feel like what's going to happen is, well, I should say that the kids find the Ecto-1 in the barn, and it's aged.
It's beat is the best way to explain that.
And at the very end, Ernie Hudson's like, "What did they do to you?"
I mean, they were doing donuts in the cornfield.
So he takes Ecto-1 back to New York, and Aykroyd actually early on his phone call with McKenna Grace says that that the firehouse was turned into a Starbucks. But here in the Easter egg at the very end, you find out that the firehouse is still around, and they pull the Ecto-1 in there, and he's talking to Janine. Annie Potts comes back as Janine. She's there at like she's actually the first cameo in the movie.
Which I thought was nice.
Yeah. And she comes back at the very end talking to Winston, and he's talking about how he built a successful business, and he's talking about the old days, and he pretty much says what we all know, that Ray was the heart of the Ghostbusters, Egon was the brains. He said Venkman kept everything cool. And then she said, "Well, what were you?" And he goes, "I was a sex appeal." I always looked at Ernie Hudson more as the muscle, like the grounded guy, that he was the one who could break it down for everybody who didn't know what was going on, but he was always like the in-your-face. He was more of the badass of the group.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially because they didn't go into it because a lot of his stuff got cut out, but they said that he was originally a soldier.
Okay.
And he got out of the military and was looking for a job.
That would explain the haircut and the...
Exactly.
Cut, yeah.
And a little bit more of that, like,
he was
tough
pretty
demeanor.
Built, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Even today, if you ever see Ernie Hudson, dude, fucking monster. I mean, he looks like he'll kick your ass. But really, he's a gentle giant.
He's got a heart of gold, doesn't
Absolutely. Fucking one of the greatest human beings ever, really. Never mind being a celebrity.
Yeah.
Fucking grounded as all hell. But I feel like he's gonna finance the Ghostbusters and bring them back, and they'll get new recruits. And I could kind of see him being the financier and Dan Aykroyd maybe managing and training the new guys.
Which would be the smart thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, even if they use Egon's grandkids as, like, the brains, because, like, how quick she was able to put everything together to fix the proton pack.
Exactly. I think it would be really cool that maybe she's the one that works on the new equipment, and they keep it in the vein of looking like that raw, quick put together from a hardware store kind of look, and not all these flashy lights and stupid round shit and just like ridiculously looking, shit like the 2016 version did. Like they keep it raw and handmade and kind of crude looking, because that's what it is. I mean, that's Ghostbusters. So, I mean, I'm hopeful that it's gonna be really cool and wild to see, but I mean, only time will tell at this point.
I was hoping for at least one more game. I'm fine with that too. At this point, I'm like okay with pretty much anything.
Yeah.
That's the bad part. I might not go into it expecting anything, but I'm like, is it Ghostbusters? I will at least watch it.
Yeah. I'll give it a chance is the best way to say it. I'm always looking forward to what they're going to do and what they're going to come up with. I know it's become such a huge thing. I know as a kid, like I said, I wanted a proton pack so bad. I wanted the trap. I would just love to play things like that. I think the thing about Ghostbusters that makes it tricky is they got to come up with new equipment and new tricks, because you can't just, zap them, cap them, trap them, as Ray said in the game.
But if you think about it, even with the original pack, they could always bring in new ghosts. That's the thing. Like, there's always going to be a new monster showing up. And if they play that out right, it'd be fine.
Exactly. I just think you can't make it so cliche. I think they should go into other worlds at some point, because that would be pretty wild to see.
Oh yeah, especially interdimensional stuff, because like there's always gonna be that bigger fish.
Yeah. Well, could you see something like a slime river, and then you get these like ghost monsters that are like swimming, like ghost alligators or something?
That'd be
like,
crazy.
It would be fucking wild.
Especially the sewers of New York.
Yeah. I mean, there'd be so much really cool shit. And look at like some of the characters that we got in the cartoon that would be really wild to see.
Come on, I'm not gonna lie. I wouldn't mind seeing Sam Hain bringing that back.
Yeah, I know. I'd actually
character.
be really cool to see him as a live character.
Like,
Ghostbusters, like on Halloween, like, the veil is thin, and now we got like all this shit.
Yeah.
You know? Like some 666 ceremony, like something wild.
Finally
like,
get our Ghostbusters in hell.
Yeah. So many cool things.
I mean, just think about I'm thinking of the cartoon. Remember the house that was possessed and it was actually trying to eat them?
Yeah. Oh my god, the fucking, like, the toilet, mouth monster? Oh my gosh, dude. That is great shit. I don't care where you're from.
So, you were talking about getting a proton pack. They are actually doing a prop replica now. It's part of the Hasbro Black Series.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I was thinking about getting it until I saw the price tag.
I don't think it comes with a gun, though, either.
No, it's full.
Oh, it is now?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
But you can pull it apart like it is in the movie. Dude, it's like $400.
But
I'm like, it's to a T what it needed to be, and I'm like,
You know what, though?
I'd rather make it.
I was going to say, I'd rather make it because there's a lot more fun in doing that. I mean, Jeff and I made a Freddy Krueger glove. We have a lot of fun memories with that, so...
I think my wife has a...
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it's fun, but she's a fun memory.
Fun for us.
We'll have to tell that during a Nightmare on Elm Street episode.
Oh, yeah, we can. That's the perfect time to bring that up. But really, they seem like they'd be a really cool project to make. And then if, like, imagine, like, we have one and they're just hanging around the Loomis room.
Oh, yeah.
And people be like, yo, where'd you get that at? And we'd be like, oh, we made it.
Yeah, I was thinking about buying one from Spirit Halloween just to have to hang for now until we actually...
Tiny, though.
I know. I was looking at the back of the dude, but... I think it'd be just fun to have.
Yeah.
Like, it's more of a light show than...
I'd rather have the trap, because at least that feels more like a replica.
Yeah.
And we build the proton pack. That'd be really fucking cool.
I would.
I think we all should just chip in, buy that shell for like $300, and then just take urethane or something and just make... I mean, we know people who could, like... mold molds out of it, so
yeah,
that's what we should do. Part of your Christmas present was a Ghostbusters
badge.
Costume. Yeah.
I was excited when I was like, holy shit, because like you said, Ghostbusters is one of my favorites, and I would say it's probably like my top 5 too. So it's like sitting there, it's like nice.
Yeah, it's funny how it put an impact on me. It was this thing that was just supposed to be a comedy mainly for adults, but then kids started loving it. And I mean, I was into so many adult things as a kid that it's no wonder that it's carried on throughout, my childhood and into my adulthood now, because usually when it's just made for kids, that's usually where it stays.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you watch the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie, and then you watch Secret of the Ooze, and it's like, I like Secret of the Ooze, but one's clearly more well-rounded for kids and adults, and the other one's just made more for kids.
Let's say as you're sitting here, I'm like, I was laughing because this was not planned at all. There is a Stay Puft sitting next to you.
Yeah, there is.
And it's actually it was my daughter's. Like, after watching the movie, I got it for her. She played with it for a little while and then kind of gave up on it.
Yeah.
I was like, at least consider it with me for now.
Just hanging in the Loomis room.
Yeah.
So isn't that some weird irony right there? By the way, that just came like yesterday or something.
Oh, really? That's even pretty funny. So it was kind of fitting.
We always have these weird coincidences on this show. It's fucking bizarre.
Like it's kind of crazy. Like, was it right shortly after the Indiana Jones, we found out they did the 4K release, so we're still waiting on the Turtles.
Yeah. Come on.
I know
Actually, I'd rather have Mahoning do Ninja Turtles on 35 millimeter.
That'd be nice. I actually would love to go see the Ghostbusters if they do it again.
Oh, I'd love it if they do that. I saw that JT went to...
the Firehouse?
Yeah,
Dude.
And then I guess when they posted it on Instagram, they were like, maybe we should bring it back. And I'm like, yeah.
Just like it a million times.
I remember that hurt us when we saw we played Ninja Turtles, Batman, and Ghostbusters, and you and I were like, Oh.
But that was before I even heard of the place, so
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy.
Still, it's one of those like,
Gas right in the feels.
if you ever got kicked in the nuts without actually getting kicked in the nuts, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
So we got to get our suits and the proton packs made.
I would love to get a jumpsuit.
That's another thing that's easy to make. Is basically just a union suit, and you put the patch on, and
yeah, we can actually get our name tags.
Yeah, I know. I've seen that. I've seen the costumes at Monster Mania conventions and stuff.
Gosh.
And the proton packs that those guys have there, I'm just like, dude, where's the outline? Let me know.
Here's the thing. They actually do have Ghostbusters chapters. I know there's one in Philly. I know there's one in New York. It's actually like cosplayers. And, I actually do like the symbol for Phillies because it's the Liberty Bell with the ghost in it.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, damn. I was like, I would love to join, but I'm like, I don't have the time to drive.
I know, right?
I know it's cool. Like there is another documentary out there for just Ghostbusters fans. They're called Ghost Heads, and it talks about the fandom. It talks about the cosplayers. It talks about the chapters of Ghostbusters, and I thought that was actually really cool. I think Dan Aykroyd either helped produce it. I know he hosts in parts of it. So it's cool seeing that he's still like keeping up with the Ghostbusters fans.
Hey, that's his baby, and he has every right to oversee it. I know he had some words about how he wasn't happy with 2016's version. I know he was all about it, and then later on he was outspoken and said, yeah, this is not exactly what it was supposed to be.
Like I said, a script's something different than actually making the movie. It might have been something different that he read, and then when he finally got to see the end piece, it's like,
Well, he doesn't want to like be outspoken and say, I hope this thing bombs or nothing.
Yeah.
He wants it to continue. I mean,
Yeah.
one, because he holds it close to his heart, and two, obviously he's probably getting money for it. So.
I know he was there for when they rebuilt the original Ecto 1. I think it was for the game.
Yeah.
And I thought that was actually really cool.
I'm still in shock that they actually let that go to shit as much as they did. Like, I'm always surprised about these Hollywood props. Like, even Bruce the Shark, they just threw one of them away, and then it was at some garbage dump, and they displayed it in the trees. Now I think it's actually been rebuffed and put in a museum.
Yeah, Greg Nicotero actually talked about redoing it, so I thought that was actually really cool.
I'm not sure what happened to Ecto 1. I want to say from what I heard, it kind of fell apart again.
Well, I'm guessing over time, because like that was 10 years ago. So we're at, what, 35 years? Well, 37, as I just said.
Yeah.
So it's like, after, I think the game was 10 years ago, so yeah, might have been a little, been with her. Yeah. around like 10 to 12 years, so yeah. They probably like did it just for that, did the tour with it, and then when 2016 kind of happened, they probably like, all right, we'll let it sit for a while.
Yeah, unfortunately. I'd have to think somebody who was a big fan with money would have bought it up and still, like...
I think they did talk about rebuilding it again because of Afterlife, because why not?
Yeah. And whatever happened to Ecto 1A from the second movie?
I don't know.
So,
it's kind of crazy. Like,
know,
some of the stuff that they're like, all right, cool. Like, even Take the DeLorean, they had to rebuild. Because it was actually on display at Universal, but people were stealing pieces off it.
Oh, God.
But it's one of those things, like, it should have been upkept more than it should have.
I agree. I think a lot of that stuff should be. I mean, some things you just can't, like some costumes, because a lot of times what people don't realize are Hollywood costumes, especially when liquid latex is involved, they're just made to be displayed for the movie, and then it doesn't last.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it, like, if you look up certain costumes and stuff. Well, like, remember the Batman masks at the Tim Burton exhibit? I was surprised they held up as well as they did. Yeah. I mean, you can still see some weather and aging and the cracks in them, but overall, I'm surprised that they still do look as good as they do. You know, what's her name? Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman costume is another story.
That looked like it smoked.
Yeah. But, Ghostbusters is close to my heart because I always had a fun time with the cartoon, with the movies. I wanted to be a Ghostbuster as a kid. I don't know too many people who didn't. It got me into wanting to know more about ghosts and afterlife and how would you actually stop a ghost or something like that. And here, it was a cool combination of science and a little bit of religion, and also gave you some history within corporations. Like they talked about the Mesopotamians, when they're talking about Gozer, and so they had like some ancient history get involved with it, which I thought was really fascinating as well. I remember as a kid taking my mom's shampoo and pretending it was slime and telling people, "Yo, look, I found slime," and here it was just shampoo. Because it was like the only thing that I had that kind of looked like it.
Oh yeah, I mean, shampoo when we were younger was like different colors.
Mm-hmm. She actually had pink shampoo too. It looked like, yeah. So I tried to fool so many people with it. I loved it. I mean, I even loved, believe it or not, one of my favorite characters was the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I was so upset that he was a bad guy though.
Yeah.
He's just so happy. It's like when I see him walking around the street, I'm like, oh, come on.
Why can you be mad at that?
Yeah, you just want to give him a hug, really.
Come here.
Yeah, and then, it tastes good.
I wonder how that would work out. You like start eating him?
It's like Pizza the Hut from Spaceballs. He ate himself to death.
But that's pizza. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true too. He wouldn't last long around us.
Absolutely.
You have anything else to add to Ghostbusters?
Other than, if you haven't seen the Afterlife, go and see it. If you haven't seen Ghostbusters, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, really.
I mean, it's been enough time. You probably heard every spoiler in the book. Except for, Ron Jeremy was in the original and in the porn remake.
He was in the original?
Yeah. He was in the crowd when they're going up to the building.
Oh, no kidding.
I think he showed that. He's like, hey, I'm right here.
That's awesome.
So that's always funny. But, yeah.
You gotta bring that up when we talk more in depth about Ghostbusters and Film Asylum at some point. Because there's a lot more we can actually talk about Ghostbusters. I'm still trying to find more about the second movie because, like I said, I still enjoy it and I think it's still worth talking to. And I think maybe if we go into depth a little more of explaining it, more people can at least have some more of an appreciation for it instead of just absolute hate. Because I get it, I really do. But at the same time, I'm like, it's really not that bad.
Oh, yeah.
So, with that being said, I guess we'll sign off. This is Collin Peters.
And Jeff Manfred.
Thank you all once again for listening. Stay safe. Stay crazy.
Please, somebody help me.
Oh, yeah.